I love diving deep into relationships with all of you, so let's talk about the secret lives of Mormon wives and explore this question. Why do we give up our voice in love, and what does it take to get it back? What may seem like a simple conversation often holds something much deeper beneath the surface. Subtle shifts in power, unspoken fears, and the quiet ways people lose themselves in their relationships. This episode is layered with moments that show us the complexity of love, betrayal, and healing. Let's take a closer look, not to judge, but to understand what's really going on beneath the surface and what it actually takes to grow through it. So let's start with Zak and Jen. So let me just start here and just show you something from last season, because there's a whole lot more beneath the surface underneath this simple question that Jen asks Zak.
I honestly think you're going to love New York.
Do you think I'll be missing mom talk?
I honestly don't.
The problem with Jen asking Zak if she'll miss mom talk is that it is not a question for him to answer. It's a question she needs to answer for herself. She defers to him, and by doing so, she's giving away her power in the relationship and silencing her own voice. It shows that she may not fully trust her own instincts. And what's equally important is the way that Zak confidently responds that she won't miss it. Why is he so sure? What is he basing that on? Is it something he observed in her, or is he answering the question in a way that serves his needs? Perhaps hoping she'll leave that part of her life behind because it makes him uncomfortable or insecure. Either way, it's a moment that reveals a deeper imbalance in how they relate to one another.
Zak got accepted to Arizona. We ended up moving to Arizona. Things for Zak and I continue to be pretty rocky. For me to want to fight for a marriage, I need to feel like he's putting my feelings before his.
It seems like Jen feels that Zak often put his needs ahead of hers, which is likely why she now says she wants him to put her feelings before his. However, that kind of shift where one person's needs consistently come first is not a healthy or lasting solution. A more meaningful shift would be for both of them to consider each other's feelings and work through challenges together from a place of mutual respect and care. That is where real connection and balance can grow. So, they have been separated, and now they sit down for a conversation. Let's watch.
The last couple months have been hard, obviously, and
Been really hard.
I know I messed up. Like the way I treated you, like no matter what you had done, those things should have never been said, and I have to live with that the rest of my life.
Sometimes people begin with "I'm messed up," which can show they are taking responsibility. That's an important first step, but real repair goes deeper than admitting fault. It starts with empathy. It means showing that you truly understand how the other person felt when they were hurt. Without that understanding, the apology can feel empty. You might be left wondering why nothing feels better, and it is often because empathy was missing. So let's keep watching and see if he is able to move beyond the words "I messed up" and into genuine empathy.
I want to prove to you that I love you and that like I am a good husband, I am a good father. I want to fight for a marriage, and that's why I'm here.
I'm not sure what it really means when someone says, "I want to fight for our marriage." Often people say this to show that they still want to be in the relationship, but wanting to stay is not the same as truly understanding what it takes to repair and rebuild, especially after causing hurt. Fighting for a marriage requires more than words. It takes consistent effort, self-reflection, empathy, accountability, and a real willingness to understand and respond to your partner's emotional needs.
I definitely feel like there's still a lot of work to do as far as changing and becoming who I want to be. I'm in therapy, been working on like, as long as you want to be here and you love her, you need to let her live her life the way she wants, or she's never going to be happy. So I'm here letting you live your life the way you want so you can be happy.
I am so happy that he recognizes that there is work to do, and starting therapy is a meaningful first step. He also seems to be realizing that he can't control how Jen chooses to live her life. The deeper challenge for them is figuring out how to share a life together in a way that respects each other's independence and individuality. For example, he could reflect on why he once said she wouldn't miss mom talk. Instead of making assumptions, he might open up and say something like, I felt threatened by mom talk, like it was taking you away from me, and that scared me. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how he felt, but that kind of vulnerability is what opens the door to honest and respectful conversation. That is how you begin to build trust and move forward together.
For so long, I think he truly believed that like his feelings were more important. Within the Mormon church, it's very expected for the women to be submissive to their husbands. But for me, whether this helps me become a stronger member of the church or maybe turn away from the church, I think in order for this marriage to work, we have to be equals.
Because both of them were raised to believe that women should be submissive to their husbands, they are in a difficult position. They want to save their marriage, but they likely have very few tools for building a relationship based on equality. A marriage of equals may be something they have never seen modeled or been taught how to create, so they have some challenges ahead of them.
I feel like I've been blaming myself for so many years, thinking that I was the issue or I was too sensitive. I feel like this is like the first time in my life that I need to put my foot down. Like I want my partner to think of me and my feelings before anything else. And anyone who doesn't respect that, they're not going to be a part of my life.
I think what she is expressing is that she felt powerless in her marriage. Now that he is taking full accountability and he wants to return to the relationship, she may finally feel a sense of power. This is a dynamic I see often in my counseling sessions. My deeper question is this: where did she learn to blame herself? It sounds like that has been part of her experience, and that needs attention and healing. That is where her personal growth work lies. At the same time, she will not be able to do this work while using subtle threats, such as saying that anyone who does not fully respect her position will no longer be part of her life. I do understand why she feels that way. She is trying to figure out how to have an equal voice in her marriage, and it is likely something she was never taught or shown. This is hard work. She might say to Zak, I need to work on bringing my voice into our relationship, and sometimes that's hard for me to do. It would really help if you would give space for my voice by trying to understand what I am sharing with you. So that way she's not making a threat. She is using her voice in an empowering way while also clearly communicating what she needs from Zak to feel heard and respected.
I reached out to my dean and put in my application to leave medical school. My feelings towards mom talk haven't honestly completely changed, but I feel like a lot of our marriage, I've made it about me and the things I want to do, and you've kind of just supported me in that. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, to be honest.
So it's clear that both of them are feeling lost. He seems to recognize that much of their life has revolved around his choices, but now he is unsure what direction to take. That kind of uncertainty can be just as unhealthy. What they both need is to figure out how to support each other in a balanced way. In a healthy relationship, one person should not consistently come before the other. When that happens, it often leads to resentment, and resentment is so toxic in a relationship, it can quietly damage the foundation of a relationship over time. She did say that she wants to support him, and I believe she means it. But it's also clear that both of them are scared. They don't seem to know what mutual support actually looks like in a relationship. Support that allows both of them to have their emotional needs and career goals honored. One helpful starting point is to talk openly about what support means to each of them. For emotional support, that could sound like saying, I feel supported when you listen without interrupting. Or it helps when you ask how I'm doing at the end of a hard day. For career support, they might ask questions like, what does encouragement look like for you when it comes to your work? Or how can I show up for you in a way that I'm supporting your goals, even though I might be struggling with how I'm feeling? How can we work this out together? Support might mean celebrating each other's achievements, being flexible with time and responsibilities during career transitions, or simply asking, how can I help make space for what matters to you right now? Learning to express these needs clearly and to listen without defensiveness is how they can begin to build that kind of mutual support that can strengthen both their connection and their individual growth.
Obviously, you can't change overnight. I think this is going to be a long journey. I definitely have a lot of expectations for him this time around, and there's going to be some boundaries and guidelines moving forward.
Jen is clearly feeling empowered, and that can be a powerful shift when someone has spent a long time feeling overlooked or disempowered in a relationship. It is not uncommon for a person in that position to fully embrace their new sense of strength. She was one time at one end of the extreme, feeling completely disempowered and without a voice. Now she seems to be shifting completely to the opposite extreme, holding tightly to her power. This swing is understandable, especially when someone has felt silenced for a long time, but she may be afraid to move toward the middle, toward mutual empowerment, because it feels too close to the side where she once lost her voice. I think what she fears is that compromise might mean giving up her power entirely rather than sharing it. The real work is helping both of them find a space where power is not taken or held onto, but shared. A space where both voices matter and neither of them has to disappear for the other to be heard.
I'm trusting you that you'll be on my side. You won't talk over me. You'll hear me out, meaning you'll understand and validate me, meaning that you will generally think of me and my feelings before your own feelings, which I know is going to be very, very hard with your personality, but that's what I need.
So if I were counseling them as a couple, I would ask Jen to clarify what she really means when she says she wants Zak to put her feelings before his. I would also want to ask what she means by wanting him to be on her side. These kind of phrases carry emotional weight, but they can mean very different things depending on the person and the context. And I can almost guarantee that Zak has never been taught how to validate someone's emotions because most of us have not been taught. Emotional validation is a skill and one that many people struggle to develop. In this moment, you can see how scared he is. His silence and quick agreement with Jen may mean that he is trying to keep the peace, not because he fully understands her, but because he is afraid of making things worse. And to be clear, based on his behavior last season, he definitely has some growth work to do, but that growth work cannot be one-sided. Real healing in a relationship happens when both people are willing to look inward and grow together.
I think a lot of people who are raised in the church are raised in a particular way and they don't even really realize some of these patterns. I put a lot of pressure on myself and Jen to be a certain way. I'm not currently going to church, and I'm hoping moving forward that we can just be a little bit more authentic to ourselves.
When Zak says he put a lot of pressure on both of them to be a certain way, it implies that when things did not match that image, the way that he felt things should be, he likely felt shame. That kind of pressure often comes from trying to live up to deeply ingrained beliefs about what a relationship, your wife or spouse or family should look like. Now that he is stepping away from the church, he is entering a period of real uncertainty. He is questioning the beliefs he was raised with, trying to figure out what he truly believes, who he is as an individual, and how to build a marriage based on values that feel authentic to him now. That is a major identity shift, and it comes with a lot of emotional and relational work. Growth like that takes time, vulnerability, and support. Okay, let's move on to Taylor and Dakoda. So we know that Taylor saw texts that show that Dakoda was lying to her regarding another woman. And then he said this about Taylor.
So you posted a TikTok with him in your bathroom, and I just had like this feeling in my chest, like, don't trust him, kind of. And I said, are you dating Taylor? And he told me no, it was just for clout, and like she's just helping me build like my social media.
This kind of betrayal is soul crushing.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I hate it.
This is painful to watch. Some people might see this and think Taylor should just walk away. They might think Dakoda is a jerk. But it is never that simple. The truth is, even when you have been betrayed, hurt, and heartbroken, love does not just turn off like a light switch. Emotional attachment does not disappear the moment someone causes you pain. That is what makes situations like this so hard. You might clearly see that someone is not treating you well and still feel connected to them. That pull between love and self-protection is what makes walking away one of the hardest things to do. So now Taylor turns to her mom for support. Let's watch.
It's just all the lying that really hurts. I feel like I fell in love with like someone that like doesn't exist. He's not the guy that I thought like at all.
Now it's like, where do we go from here?
So Taylor's mom does not respond to Taylor's pain. Of course, it's possible that something may have been edited out, but based on what we are shown, when she says, where do we go from here? She doesn't meet Taylor where she is in her pain and the emotional reality of what Taylor is going through. She doesn't acknowledge the deep hurt, lies, and betrayal that Taylor has experienced with Dakoda. It comes across as emotionally disconnected from the depth of Taylor's pain, and perhaps she simply doesn't know how to respond. Many people find themselves not knowing what to say to someone when they are hurting. But sometimes the best thing that you can say is, I am so sorry that you are hurting, and I'm glad you shared this with me, and know that I'm here for you. I mean, I know that her mom shows up for Taylor in ways. She takes care of the children, and she does sit with Taylor and listen to what Taylor goes through, but there is definitely something missing in what she gives to Taylor.
I feel like the only thing I've ever asked of Dakoda is to be honest.
Yeah.
That is the only thing.
If he was to walk away, like, could you handle it?
I choose walking away then. These things I just found out. It's going to be awful.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't want that. But I am not going to settle.
So Taylor shows more emotional insight than her mom in this moment. You can see the shock on Taylor's face when her mom asks, could you handle it if Dakoda were to walk away? This comes right after Taylor shares that Dakoda lied about being with another woman and betrayed her. The question not only dismisses Taylor's pain, it also shows a lack of emotional understanding. It didn't meet her where she was or offer any real support to Taylor. There was no acknowledgement that Taylor is the one who was hurt and might be the one to consider walking away. It seems less like a question about Taylor and more like a reflection of her mother's own fears. Perhaps fears of being left or being alone. Well, I cannot know that for sure. Her mother's question shifts the focus away from Taylor's hurt to something likely having to do more with her mom.
I think my trust issues stem from my biological father leaving me at a young age. I met my dad once. I don't know, how old was I? 4 maybe? And he sees me and he's like, what's up, kid? And that's literally like all he says to me.
Taylor is talking about meeting her biological dad for the first time at a very young age. And you might think something like that wouldn't have much of an impact, but for a child, it often does. Even without fully understanding what's happening, a child can internalize the experience as if something is wrong with them. But she is wise to put these pieces together. It will give her the self-awareness and the insight that she seems to be seeking. She goes on to say this.
I had never heard from my dad after that day. That has stuck with me more than I ever thought. When you feel like you're not loved by your dad and that's the only words he has to say to you, I don't know. I think there's just a wound there that's been there for a very long time that I've never addressed.
My heart breaks for Taylor. What she is carrying is a very, very deep wound. When someone she loves now, like Dakoda, betrays her, it does not just hurt in the present, it reopens the pain from her past. The pain of being left by her father, of not receiving the love and presence every child deserves. So when she cries over Dakoda, she is not just crying over this betrayal. She is also grieving the wounds that were inflicted on her when she was very young. That early hurt still lives in her, and this new heartbreak brings it all back to the surface.
I came into this relationship wanting it to be different and like loyal and good. I feel used and played and like trash. Like, why am I still on this couch crying like a year later?
I'm sorry. No.
Taylor is looking to her mom for support, validation, and comfort, and I had such hope when she leaned in and hugged her. But then she said this.
So what do?
You keep trying. I really wish you would have thought of things before you got pregnant from him. Just like we said, like take your time because it hurts everybody, like not just you. You have 3 kids now and you need to focus and put their lives in front of yours.
And then bam, she delivers a blow that lands like a punch to the gut, a deep punch of shame. It is the kind of comment that does not just sting in the moment. It cuts into the most vulnerable parts of someone's identity. And for Taylor, it likely triggered old feelings of not being good enough or lovable, and that only deepens the emotional wound.
You and Dakoda, like this needs to be your priority. That's a foundation of our lives, is our family. If anything that the LDS Church has, like that foundation of a family is something that I strongly believe in. Your generation, I think, is just like, okay, it's not working, see you later. And it's not like that. It's like,
But it hasn't been working for 2 years.
I know, but still, Taylor, you need to try.
I hardly know what to say here. When deeply held beliefs collide with lies and betrayal, it's heartbreaking to see that. In this case, Taylor's mom seems to be prioritizing her belief over Taylor's pain. And yet, despite the lack of support, Taylor still had the strength to tell Dakoda to move out. That speaks to her clarity and self-respect, even in the middle of feeling hurt and alone. So, let's see what Dakoda has to say.
When I saw Macy call Jenna, I don't know, I just didn't want more problems. So I actually decided to tell Taylor, like, yeah, we just made out. We like dry humped. I fell asleep with her on the couch. The thing that I left out that was like a big one was just that we were in a room, because I knew that one would hurt her.
When I think back to season 1, Taylor repeatedly questioned Dakoda about seeing someone else, and he gaslit her, making her feel like she was overreacting or imagining things. Now he openly admits that he was with someone else and doesn't seem to show any remorse. What's even more troubling is how calculated he is in what he chooses to share. He admits that certain details would hurt her, which means he knows the impact of his actions. But why does he think the rest wouldn't hurt her? All of it hurts. Lies and betrayal always do.
I deleted some messages that if she was to like read those, I thought that would essentially make me lose her and my son. I did lie. I was always doing it selfishly to protect myself. I just wish I was honest to her, but it's too late.
So now he says that he wishes he had been honest with her. I'm not sure what he means when he says that, because he just said that he didn't tell her everything because it would hurt her. So he continues to lie to her. Let's keep watching and see where this goes.
It's hard too because our son's so perfect. I feel a lot of guilt for him too. Just feeling like I let him down. I would do anything to have my family, to be with Taylor. And yeah, unfortunately, I hurt her really bad. And I screwed up.
When Dakoda says I hurt her and I screwed up, it may sound like accountability on the surface, but it is not empathy, not for Taylor. Those words show his sense of loss. He is focused on what he lost, his son, his family, that he could have had with Taylor, not on the pain he caused her. When Dakoda says I screwed up, it sounds like an acknowledgement of harm, but it is vague and actually self-focused. That phrase may help ease his own guilt rather than create space for Taylor's pain. True repair requires genuine empathy and a willingness to face the emotional impact of his actions. Real accountability would sound more like, I understand how deeply I hurt you, or I betrayed your trust, and that must have made you feel broken, alone, and unloved. That kind of ownership takes emotional maturity and a willingness to face the full weight of the damage that he's done. Not just to admit wrongdoing, but to truly see the person you hurt. In this moment, Dakoda is still centering on himself until he can fully sit with the pain he caused Taylor without rushing to explain or redeem himself. It is not healing, it's damage control.
And that these are also consequences of my own actions. I'm just sick of, I'm sick of hurting, and I'm sick of like destroying things in my life due to myself. Taylor's the one person I've loved the most out of anybody. It's just worth fighting for. That's what I'm gonna do.
When Dakoda says he's sick of hurting and tired of destroying things in his life, he is still focused entirely on himself. He says nothing about the pain he caused Taylor or the emotional impact his actions had on her. And when he says that Taylor is the person he has loved more than anyone, that feels deeply concerning. In season 1, he spent a lot of energy gaslighting her, and even now he continues to overlook her pain. That is not love, and it is certainly not how love is shown. When he says he's going to fight for her, I'm not sure he actually knows what that looks like. My sense is that for him, it likely means trying to convince her to stay rather than sitting with the pain he caused and allowing her to heal in her own time. That kind of support requires emotional strength and humility, and based on what we have seen, I question whether he has that yet. True love means being present for someone else's pain, not just trying to escape your own. To fight for a relationship when you have hurt your loved one means to sit with them in their pain with empathy, understanding, compassion, remorse, and to do so for as long as it takes. That is fighting for a relationship. And that takes a lot of inner strength because you have to endure the shame that you feel knowing that you hurt someone that you love. Well, that's a wrap on episode 1. Be sure to come back for more Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, where I'm going to be exploring the emotional dynamics, especially during the dinner at Taylor's parents' home, where everything blew up. So what was really going on beneath the tension, and what finally pushed things over the edge? I'm going to talk about all of it. And if you found today's video helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on love, relationships, and personal growth. See you next time.